but I hope now we can be able to learn. Okay, so I want us to begin by how to create a HTML web page. Now, to create a HTML web page, normally you use what we call a simple text editor. Your operating system normally comes with a simple text editor. If you're using Windows, then it comes with Notepad. It's called Notepad. So from Notepad, you can be able to create a web page. That is, write HTML scripts, then be able to save it, and now you can be able to open it up with a browser. So this is what we call Notepad. It's a simple text editor. Simple text editor is the opposite of what you can think of as, for example, word processing documents, like Microsoft Office Word, for example, where you can be able to format text. So here you can be able to format the code. You can just be able to write it. So let's begin. Let's just write the simple structure of a HTML document. Some of the important elements that must be there. The first element normally is the doc type. The doc type element. So you just type it in caps like that, then HTML. The purpose of this particular element is to tell the browser that the version of HTML that you're using is HTML5. After the doc type element, then we go to the HTML document, which is the HTML element, which is actually also referred to as the we also refer to it as the root element, because it encloses all the other elements. Now look at how I've done it. I do the opening tag, then I do the closing tag. Then I come in between so that I can be able to type the other HTML tags. The reason as to why we do that is because if you say you'll close this as the very last tag, you might forget it. So normally, if we have any block level element or even inline element that requires an opening and a closing tag, make sure you type both of them, then go in between and type the content that is supposed to be there. So that's exactly what I have done. Normally it's advisable that anytime now you type any other elements that are within it, you indent it. You indent. You can indent using a tab, for example. So I'll just press a tab for it to go there. The other thing I want to mention is that for the closing tag, it will normally have the forward slash. So that's how we differentiate between an opening tag and a closing tag. Okay, but it's not very necessary for you to indent these two tags that are within the HTML element, which is the head element. So I'll close head, and we also have the body element, and I'll close body like that. So you can see how I'm typing it. It's not very necessary for you to indent them because they are the only two elements that are within the HTML tag. So it's not very necessary for you to indent them. Okay, so I've just I'm now inside the head. As you can remember, the head element is used to give us more information. About that particular HTML page. One of the tags or elements that go here is the title element. So, and close title. Then in between the title, you can say, for example, this is my first HTML page, something like that. So that will appear in the title bar. So that is called the title element. Okay, then inside the body of the HTML, we can have, for example, a heading 1. So H1 and H1, like that. H1 and H1. And for example, for the content here, you can type welcome to HTML. Remember, I cannot be able to see anything you type on the chat. If you have a question, just unmute your mic and ask the question. Okay, then you can also do a paragraph. So this is how we do a paragraph. Then you end the paragraph like that. Then you put some content here, for example. So for example, the purpose of this page is to demonstrate a basic HTML document, just like that, for example. So that is how we we do it. So normally we consider this as the basic structure of a HTML document. So it must have at least the doc type element, the HTML element, head, body, and either H1 or a paragraph, and also the title inside the head. So this is the basic structure. So how then do we save this particular document? Okay, so to save the document, just like in any other application, you go to the file menu, then you click on save, or on your keyboard you can do Control+S. Control+S. Okay, so that's taking a while. Not sure why my computer is hanging. So let's give it a minute. Okay, so here it is. So for example, you might want to save it, for example, on the desktop. It really depends on what you want to do. I'll create a new folder on the desktop and maybe call it website project. So I'm just creating a folder. So normally you must create a folder where you're going to save your documents, your HTML documents, for example. So I'm just calling it website project for now. You can create subfolders to group similar items together, but for now I'm just going to save it inside this particular folder. So once I've created the folder website project, I can be able to give it a name. So I can give it a name, for example, let me just call it home, because it's our first page. So for example, home.html. So you can call it .html or .htm. Both of them will work. HTM or HTML if you're using 4-character code. So you can be able to call them either of them. What is advised is that if you're using .html, then you use it for all your web pages. If you're using .htm, again you use it for all your pages. So just that, home.html, then you click on save. So after you've clicked on save, you can go to that particular folder on your desktop. So now how do you open? So here I should find website project. And now you can see that I have my home.html page. If I double click it, then it opens up with Google Chrome, which is my default browser. And as part of the content, we can see a heading, welcome to HTML. We can also see a paragraph. The purpose of this page is to demonstrate a basic HTML document. Other than that, we can also see the title here. You can see the title. So that is the purpose of the title. If I hover above this, you can see the title is presented there as a tooltip, as a tooltip. And as I said again, this is our H1, our heading 1, and this is our paragraph. And that is our paragraph. So the body, this entire part is what we call the body of our HTML page. So that entire white area is what is represented by the body the body tag. On the other hand, the title, of course, went inside the head, the head of our document. Okay, so what if your file here is not being presented as a web file? So how do you open it again with a web browser? To do that, you right click on it like that, then you go to open with, like that, then you can choose one of the browsers that you want to open it up with. So you can choose from this list whichever you want to open it up with. Okay, so that is very important. Let me just save this again, Control S, then close it. So what do you do if you want to open it on the simple note editor so that you can continue adding into that particular page? For example, we want to add another paragraph or some other content into this page. How do you do that? To do that, again, you can right click on it. Then you can come to open with. Then if you don't have Notepad on this list, you can click on choose another app. For example, then let's see, do we have anything here? More apps. We can click more apps. Do we have Notepad? Yes, we have Notepad. So we can click Notepad, then you can click OK. So if we do that, then it's gonna open up. Our file in the Notepad editor, and we can be able to add to it. So for example, I can use the inline element HR, which is horizontal rule, in order to create a horizontal line. So just like that. So if we type HR like that, then I click on save, Control S to save. If I go back to my browser, there is something I need to do for that particular line now to be drawn, or whatever we've updated. I need to reload my web page. To reload your web page, you can use the keyboard shortcut F5, or you can press on this reload icon here, this one here, or you can right click and click on reload. So when you click on reload, it should be able, for example, to create the horizontal rule. So that is what we call the horizontal rule. So that's how really we do it. So for example, again, after the HR, I can, for example, do a H2 and H2. Then for this H2, I want to say list of geometric shapes, like that. So I can do a list here, but before I do that, I can do Control S to save my work. Then I can come here and reload my page or refresh, and I will be able to see that particular heading 2. As you can see, heading 1 is very big, heading 2, H2, is a little bit smaller, and it will reduce in size just like that. Remember, we have H1, we have heading level 1, H1, all the way to H6, whereby H6 is the smallest. So this is the smallest of headings, this is the biggest. And you can see that indeed H1 here is bigger in terms of the font size compared to our H2 there. Okay, so that's just a reminder. Let's go on and do the list. We've also learned about the list tags. We have an ordered list UL that is written using the UL tag. It has an opening and a closing tag. Okay, then you can be able to indent it, whatever is in there, in order to do the list items. So list items is done using the LI tag. So you can do open LI and LI like that. Then you put some content inside it. For example, rectangle, just like that. then you go to the next line. Then, for example, you do li and li. You do, for example, triangle, like that. So you can see how I'm indenting my work. So indenting helps in readability, so that when you come to edit this particular document another time, it becomes a little bit what do we call it? It becomes a little bit easier to identify the different parts of your page. And also, if anyone else really comes to either have a look at it in order to maintain your code, they can't be able to get through easy. So indenting is part of the conventions of programming that helps your program to be readable. So I'll be expecting that when you do your project, I'll be expecting that you indent the code just like I'm doing here. So always make sure you indent. You can always indent using a tab. Li and Li. Then you can add, for example, pentagon, like that. Okay, then you can save using Control S. So just press Control S on my keyboard. I can come back on my browser, right click, reload. So when I do that, then you can see the unordered list. So this is what we call an ordered list, because it uses this bullets to represent the list. Otherwise, we also have the OL. For example, if we change this to ordered list, OL, so open OL and OL, and save, you can see that it will change to a numbered list. So that's the difference between ordered and unordered list. Okay, why is my computer hanging so much this morning? Okay, so you can see that we have that. Okay, anyone with a question or a comment? Anyone with a question or a comment? Are you getting this? Okay, respond to that poll. Let me see, respond to that poll. Okay, thank you. So please feel free to ask any question you might have, and I'll be able to answer that particular question. Okay, so let's get this back. I can do undo to get them back to UL. Oh, I can't undo more than once here. So I can't undo more than once. So I just want to share with you. Okay, I want to go to attributes. I'm also tempted to share with you some of the problems. Now, we have specialized text editors that you can use to edit your HTML documents. Those specialized editors have several advantages, and it is important that you get this right. Now, for example, you can see here, if I try to do Control Z in order to undo, I can only undo once. I can't be able to undo several steps back, which is not a very good feature. So if you use Notepad, you can be able to undo more than once. So that's one problem. The other problem with this particular editor is that it does not do indentation, code indentation automatically. Some of those other specialized editors will do code indentation automatically. Another thing that those specialized text editors do is that they color code different parts of your code to make it even more readable and more interesting. For example, it will be able to even color the attribute differently from the element. So those color coding things, you can be able to do that. Some of them also are able to behave like compilers, where they can be able to underline, for example, if there's a problem with your code. So they can be able, for example, to tell you where there's a problem with your code. So that is just like error identification or something. So some of them can also be able to do that to you. So I hope you remember those particular advantages of using specialized editors. You can go to Google and, for example, search HTML editors, something like that. So if you do that, you can be able to have a list, for example. So we have one called Atom, we have another one called Notepad++, we have Sublime Text, we have Visual Studio, you can use it for that. We have Dreamweaver, Adobe, you can also use it for that. I've not even heard of that one and that one. I've not heard of them. I've seen most students liking Sublime Text. It's a very good one. It's a very good one. Personally, I have been using for years Notepad++, and that is what I'm going to be using. But this is just a list of free HTML editors that you can use to edit your document instead of using the normal Notepad. So just save my document and now really open it up with Notepad++ because I have already installed Notepad++. So please also install Notepad++ or Sublime Text. One of them, I recommend one of them, but you are free to use any other if you want to explore. So, and I want to open my HTML page using, Notepad++. When you install Notepad++, as you can see, if you right click on your document, you're gonna see this edit with Notepad++. So you can simply now open it like that. There's an update. I don't want the update right now. Okay, so you can see, let me zoom in a little bit. You can press Control and use your scroll button to zoom into your code if you want it to be bigger. Or you can, no, Control plus and minus is not working for zoom in, zoom out. So you can, that's how you can zoom in. If you don't have an external mouse, I really don't know how you're going to do that. Okay, but we also have, an icon for zooming in and zooming out. This one here, this one. You can see this one, this one. So with Notepad++, you can be able to zoom in and zoom out into your code, just like that. As you can see, for example, you can be able to, it colors the code. The other thing, if you click on the opening tag, it shows you the closing tag for that particular element. I click on body, it shows me, and you can see this red line. So that's another advantage. And you're able to see the opening and the closing tag. If I click on HTML, you're able to see the opening and the closing. If I click on this LI, it's being closed there. If I click on URL, it's being closed there. So that's another advantage. Okay, so let's edit this a little bit. I think the UL attribute, the UL element, I think it has a type or something. The type attribute. As you can see, the other advantage of editors, specialized editors, they also can help you with autocomplete. And I'll ask these questions in the exam. They'll help you with autocomplete. So you type, for example, then just press enter. So type the default unordered list that we have is it uses the square, the circles. So for example, I want to change this to square. So you see, so it helps with autocomplete, as you can see. So I can click on save here, save, then I can come back to my document, then I can refresh. So you can see now we do not have the circles, instead we have the squares. Let me just zoom in a little bit. So let me just repeat that. If we remove this, sorry, then save, then come here and refresh, you can see we have circles, these ones, circles. If I undo again, okay, so you can see the other advantage of specialized text editors, you can be able to undo several times. Then I save, then I come back and reload my page. Then now we have squares. So similarly, for example, for OL, for ordered lists, ordered. Oh, hey, my computer is really misbehaving this morning. Wow, why is that so? Okay. So if we don't have the type attribute, if I refresh, then you can see we have the normal numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. What if you want to use the Roman numbers? You just type the I there, I like that. Then you can save it. Save it. And then you can come here and refresh. So you can see now my list is numbered using Roman numbers. Okay, so let's get that back to, I'm just doing undo to UL. I'm not sure what the problem is with my computer. Wow. Okay, good. So, should I restart this computer or something? Wow. Okay, so I think it is important that I repeat here that this is what we call an attribute. An attribute is used to give us more information about an element. For example, here we are saying for this unordered list, we want it to use squares instead of circles as the bullets. So we want the bullets to be square. So that is what we call the type attribute. And sometimes an element can have more than one attribute. So I hope you remember that. I hope you remember that. Okay, now let's look at an inline element that we looked at when we were learning the theory class. It's called the M element, and we want to use it here. M. So enter to autocomplete and use that. Oh. Okay, then we need to close this just before. Good. Okay, so here we are putting this content HTML in between the M element. M element is used to italicize. So HTML is going to be italicized. So if I save, then I come back to my code, just observe how this will change when I reload and refresh. So you can see now it has been italicized, it has been bent a little bit. So that is what the M element does. But what I'm reminding you here is the concept of nesting. Nesting. So nesting is placing elements inside other elements. So here we are nesting the M element inside the H1 element. So that is what we call nesting. Nesting. Eh? Now, when you're nesting, it is important that you remember the rule that the first in, last out principle is what we use. So the first tag you open is the last tag that you'll close. So like here, if we close H1 before we close M, then that will be wrong nesting. We need to first of all close M, then close H1. So that is what we call nesting. Nesting. Okay, now sometimes we also, for example, want to use, sometimes we might want to use an element like the break element in order to have a white space in between content, for example. So let's see how we can be able to do that. I'm trying to look for an example, a good example. Okay, so let me just use a break element just after this paragraph, so that I can push this line, I can push it down a little bit. So the break element is simply used to put a blank space here. So it's bare. It's an empty element, just like HR. So I'm just putting it here so that I can push the horizontal rule down. So if I save, so that's an empty element. So empty elements do not have a closing tag. So if I do that, you can see how it goes down. So an empty space is inserted. So that is what you use the break element to do. You can use, but this is not a very good example, because if you want to increase the space, you're supposed to use margin in CSS. But for example, if this is a continuous paragraph and you want to break it at this point, you can't be able to use the break element to do that. So that example I've shown you, it's not a very nice one. It's not a very nice one. Yes, it works, but that's not really how we should use it. Let me just remove it there, for example, and put it here, so that you can see. If we put it there, then that continuous paragraph is going to be broken at that point. So if I do refresh, so you can see, so that is what break can be used to do. So that is break, BR element. Okay, so in the theory class we talked of we also talked of another tag, the strong tag. Okay, let me remove that again. Let me just undo. Put it there. Okay, so we talked of another inline element called strong. So for example, we want to make this content to be bold, or this is supposed to be end strong. We want to make this to be bold in this paragraph, so we use the strong element. So it's an inline element. So we looked at block level elements. Block level elements are used to enclose sentences, while inline elements are used to enclose just a single word or a single phrase. So for example, strong, M, they're inline elements. H1, paragraph, UL, these are really block level elements. Okay, so I hope I've saved. If I refresh, you can see that now page is bold. So if you want to bold some part of your document, then you can use the strong element. If you want to make some part of your document, for example, italicized, then you can use the M. For example, you can use M here. M and M. So again, that is what we call nesting. So if you save that, then you come here and you refresh, then you can see that now this is italicized. So that is how we use those inline elements. Okay, another element that is important, and we looked at, for example, is the HTML Q or quotation element. Q element. Okay, let me use it here. Q and Q. Then I can save. Then I can come here and refresh. Okay, so you can see what happens when I use the Q. So if you use the Q, then you get the quotation marks. You get the quotation marks when you use the Q element. So that is what the Q element is used for. The other element we want to look at here is the abbreviation elements. Okay, so let's see. The other thing, white spaces do not affect. White spaces between lines of code does not affect how the code is displayed on the browser. White spaces do not affect how the code is displayed on the browser. Can you hear me? Hello, can you still hear me? Okay, thank you. Okay, so as I was saying, white spaces in HTML are used to separate different parts of your code, again to make your code more readable. For example, where I'm starting the list of geometric shapes, I can have a white space. So the white space that I use there, if I save, it's not going to be displayed as a white space. If you want white space, you simply use break. Otherwise, on your editor, if you separate code using white spaces, they are not going to be executed really or implemented in the browser. Okay, so I want to use, and the other thing is this, so for example, for this paragraph, you can even use white spaces. If you don't want it to be a long line, you can put that closing there. You can indent this if you want. Sorry. Let me undo. Okay, I can push this in, I can push this in, like that. So if I do that, just because I've pushed this using enter does not mean that this paragraph is going to be broken on the browser. No. If I save, then come here and refresh, still on the same line, everything on the same line. So you can always use white spaces and press enter if a paragraph is too long, so that it starts on a new line, and in your Nini it's still going to be continuous in your browser. So I hope you get that. For example, I can type enter and then say this paragraph will still continue on the same line. If I save, Alt Tab, refresh, you can see that it is still continuing on the same line, like that. Okay. I wanted to show you the abbreviation element. Let me just do it here on another paragraph. P and P. Okay. So HTML is the content is used to structure a web page. Okay, so I can see, for example, this editor does not recognize this particular element. That's why it's coloring it black. So the abbreviation element is used to give the abbreviation of a particular acronym. So for example, here we're just enclosing this HTML. So if someone hovers above this, then it's going to tell them that that stands for hypertext markup language. So that is what the abbreviation element does. Let's save that and see what happens if we refresh. Okay, so you can see, look at that. If I hover above HTML, you can see that it gives us that tooltip. It gives us that tooltip, hypertext markup language. So if you want to include a tooltip on any part of your acronym, then you can use the abbreviation tag, and it has the title attributes that will give the content of that particular tooltip, like that. So I hope that is clear. Okay. we have already looked at uh, the ordered list and unordered list. We can also have a look at the last type of list, that is called the definition list. The definition list. Okay, so okay, let me just show you this. In HTML, we can be able to make comments. If I remember using that. So that is how we write comments. Then we write the comment inside here. So this is a definition list. So that is how we write comments. You can see that comments are colored differently. The colored is that green. So for example, let me copy that and paste it here. So this is an unordered list. UL. So let's do a definition list here. So the definition list is done using so comments are also very important. Just like in any other programming language, you use comments to explain the different parts of your HTML script. So with the definition list, we use the DL tag as we did C during the close DT, as we did C during the theory class. Okay, let me do H2 here. H2 and H2. Geometric, for example, shapes definition, something like that. Okay, another beautiful thing, let me just do the DD. So DT is definition. DT is definition term, the term you want to define, and then DD is the actual definition. DD. So the other beautiful thing about specialized text editors like Notepad++ is, for example, I can highlight this repetitive code, then for example do Control D. If I press Control D on my keyboard, you see it replicates that same code. So I can be able to do that. So I can select this, Control D. So if I Control D, it simply repeats the same code. So I can tap, for example, here triangle. Then I can say, for example, a three-sided shape like that. So that is the actual definition. This is the definition term. I can type here, for example, rectangle, or maybe say a four-sided shape. I can say here square. And say a four-sided shape. with equal equal size shift like that. Okay. BT, for example, pentagon. And come here, DD and DD are 5-sided shape. Something like that. Now if I save that, you have to save, then go back to the browser and refresh. Then that is how a DD looks like. That is how a definition list looks like. So that's how it's gonna appear on your browser. That is how it's gonna appear on your browser. Okay, so the last thing we are going to look at now, the last thing we're going to look at now is what we call character entities. Character entities. Now, in order, for example, to print greater than sign, for example, because as you can see, we already have a purpose for that. So H2, then you can call this HTML character entities. Okay. So for example, P and P. So for example, we can have greater than symbol. So to print this, you use an ampersand, then GT for greater than, like that, then a semicolon, like that. So this is what we call a character entity. Yeah. Let me see if I do this, Control D, for example, less than. Okay, another one, for example, copyright. Copyright. Another one, for example, dollar. So for the copyright, do I remember? So I'm also giving you this as a reading assignment. You go and find out the other character entities. In the meantime, for copyright, it should be and copy. Yes, copy ampersand, then copy. For dollar, for example, Let me, for example, do the pound. Is pound, like that. So if I save this, if I save that, then come and refresh, then you can see that if we want to print the greater than symbol, because it already has some use, then we use ampersand, GT, and a semicolon. If we want to print less than sign, if we want to print the copyright symbol, copyright, this one. If we want to print the pound, then we use like that. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of our practical today. So I hope you'll get time and implement this during the practical lesson. We're not going to be meeting that time because I'll be expecting you to implement this. Generally, we have looked at HTML tags that we learned in topic number 1 and in topic number 2. So next time we meet, we're going to look at again what we've been able to learn in the other topics, in the theory topics. So in the meantime, please take time and implement this as you learn. So we're going to be building upon this. So make sure you at least have this so that going forward we may not lose you. So anyone with a question or comment before we wind up? Question or comment? So I'll share the recorded video so that you can be able to follow it through. Okay, so you're welcome. Asanteni sana, you're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome. Continue learning. Remember, you can especially learn from this site, w3schools.com. w3schools.com. Please learn HTML. Learn HTML from w3schools.com. You can also learn the CSS. So go further so that we can be able to interact more when we meet up. Oh, Ruth, we're still waiting for the notes. I already shared the link for the notes with your class rep. If they haven't shared it, please ask them to share it with you. I also shared the link for the previous class. I normally do that. If they don't have it, you can ask them to request me to reshare. Maybe I missed them. Okay, bye. Enjoy the rest of your week.